The situation at Manchester City never remains stagnant for long. Barely has one season ended when a series of moves behind the scenes at the Etihad Stadium begins to take shape. The European summer has just started, but speculation and possibilities are already running at full speed. And the Citizens fans need to stay alert because there is much more at stake than one might imagine, with potentially impactful arrivals and departures that will mark an era. After years of almost absolute dominance in the Premier League, the most recent season ended without any trophies, a clear sign that changes need to happen. Pep Guardiola, ever restless, has already made it clear that he intends to overhaul the squad, especially in areas that have lost intensity. The maneuvers are being conducted with surgical strategy, strengthening the midfield, renewing the fullback positions, and maintaining the offensive level very high. And it is not just on paper that this is happening. Manchester City's management is acting behind the scenes with the intention of turning words into concrete actions. One of the top priorities is to restructure the midfield, a need that becomes even more urgent given the imminent departure of Kevin De Bruyne. The Belgian star, the creative pillar of the team for so many years, is reportedly packed and ready to move south to Italy, specifically to Napoli. According to sources close to the matter, De Bruyne accepted the move not only because of the competitive football Serie A has regained, but also because of his family's desire to experience a new chapter. The city of Naples is enchanting, and Napoli's project is appealing. For the player, it could be the perfect opportunity to continue performing at a high level, away from the suffocating spotlight of the Premier League, while still competing in major championships. But De Bruyne's departure would not be a mere symbolic farewell. It triggers a series of ripple effects in City's structure. After all, replacing him adequately will not be an easy task. That is why the search for a new maestro is already in full swing. Among the names being considered most favorably is Tijani Reinders from Milan. Young, versatile, and with a playing style that fits well with Guardiola's schemes, he is a strong candidate to take on the symbolic number 8 shirt. However, there are other options on the list. Ryan Cherki, Lions prodigy, is currently one of City's main targets. The club's management has been closely monitoring his performance and development. Cherki is known for his creativity, ball control, and exceptional vision, all fundamental qualities to fit into the playing style proposed by Pep. Internally, there is optimism that this negotiation can be concluded swiftly, especially after the English club dropped interest in Florian Wirtz, who is expected to end up at Liverpool. Still, City knows it is engaged in a true game of chess with other European giants. Liverpool, for example, is so interested in Cherki that their new manager interrupted his holiday to meet the player in person. This kind of move shows how increasingly strategic transfer negotiations have become. Every step counts. Even so, City holds an important advantage: Guardiola's persuasive power. The Spanish coach has a formidable track record of nurturing young talent and integrating them excellently into complex systems. Moreover, for a player with ambitions to grow at the highest level of European football, playing under Pep's guidance could be a career-defining turning point. But if, for any reason, the deal with Cherki does not go through, there are other cards up City's sleeve. One name gaining internal momentum is Morgan Gibbs-White from Nottingham Forest. The problem, however, lies in the price. Forest's initial asking price is around $100 million, a figure deemed excessive even for a club with City's healthy finances. Although the player is talented, doubts remain whether this sum is truly justified. That is why a third option is gaining traction: Ebereki Eze from Crystal Palace. Eze had an absolutely brilliant season, contributing 14 goals and 11 assists in 43 games, including the decisive goal in the National Cup final. It is no coincidence that City has been monitoring him for some time. What could work in his favor is his release clause, set at $60 million in today's market. This represents a relatively accessible opportunity for what he delivers on the pitch. However, Tottenham are one step ahead in negotiations. The Spurs management has been moving quickly to secure Eze before other clubs enter the race. But sources close to the situation assure, if Manchester City decide to push hard, The deal could change direction in the blink of an eye. Transfer expert Ben Jacobs was blunt. If Manchester City show up and say they want Easy as part of their squad, the deal with Tottenham is dead. It's a classic power move. Erling Haaland's admiration for Easy is another factor that counts. The Norwegian striker has publicly praised the Palace midfielder, which in a club like City could mean instant chemistry, both in the dressing room and on the pitch. But the rebuild does not stop in midfield. The defensive line is also undergoing restructuring. With Kyle Walker showing clear signs that he will end his long journey at the Etihad, Guardiola is already working on options for the right-back position. The main target is Tino Livramento from Newcastle. Young, with strong offensive presence and good positioning, Livramento is a player who appeals to the Catalan coach. The challenge, however, will be convincing Newcastle to release the player. The Magpies qualified for the next Champions League edition and see Livramento as a key piece in their long-term project. Purchased for $40 million, the fullback has already shown potential to develop further, which only raises his market value. If the mission to sign Livramento proves unfeasible, Manchester City is already considering alternative names. One of these is Wesley from Flamengo. The young Brazilian prospect attracts attention for his speed and personality on the field. He is seen as an investment for the future, but could be integrated into the squad this season if his adaptation is quick. At left back, plans seem more advanced. The target is Rayan Ait-Nouri, currently at Wolverhampton. The Franco-Algerian defender has signaled that he would like to wear the City shirt and is said to have communicated his desire to transfer to his current club. The good news is that negotiations are progressing, and the tendency is that Ait-Nouri will be announced during pre-season. These moves show that Manchester City is far from standing still after a trophyless season. Guardiola appears determined to renew the team without compromising the high technical standard the club has built in recent years. The expectation is that the citizens will enter the next season with fresh blood, renewed energy, and an even more competitive squad. Meanwhile, another saga might be about to unfold. Jack Grealish, signed for a hefty sum and with brilliant moments at the club, could be on his way out. Lack of playing time weighs heavily, and Pep has publicly stated that the Englishman deserves more minutes on the pitch. Milan and Napoli are closely monitoring the situation, and the player himself looks favorably on a move, especially if it means playing alongside De Bruyne again. The connection between the two has been special from the start. In 92 games together, they amassed 63 wins, 15 draws, and only 14 losses. Grealish provided 2 assists directly for KDB's goals, and the two developed a chemistry difficult to replicate. Perhaps fate is about to reunite this duo once more, now under the skies of Naples. With Grealish's possible move to Napoli and De Bruyne's departure increasingly close to being confirmed, Manchester City is experiencing one of those decisive moments that shape the direction of a club for years to come. It is not merely a matter of swapping names on paper, it involves the reconfiguration of a playing identity built over victorious seasons. Pep Guardiola knows this better than anyone. Therefore, every decision is being made with almost surgical precision. The question lingering among the fans is straightforward. To what extent is it worth letting go of historic players to make way for new talents still on the rise? For many, the end of the De Bruyne-Grealish era marks the closing of a golden chapter. For others, it is the ideal opportunity to renew the team's energy, open space for new protagonists, and adapt to the demands of an increasingly physical, fast, and unpredictable Premier League. And the activity behind the scenes does not stop. While negotiating departures and potential arrivals in the creative midfield, Manchester City is also preparing to strengthen the squad's foundation. And this involves players with good cost-benefit ratios, but very high potential. A clear example is Ryan Cherki. The young French attacking midfielder has not only shown above-average technical ability, but also demonstrated last season that he can be decisive. With more goal involvements than Florian Wirtz, despite playing fewer minutes, Cherki stood out amid an unstable Lyon. The competition for him, however, promises to be fierce. Liverpool, a direct rival both on and off the pitch, sees the Frenchman as a strong alternative should negotiations for Wirtz fail. The curious thing is that even being considered a plan B for the Reds, Turkey is treated as a priority at the Etihad. This difference in perception may prove decisive. While Liverpool negotiates with a clearly defined hierarchy, City is betting everything on the Frenchman, offering not only squad status, but also a project for technical development under Guardiola's guidance. And when speaking of projects, it is impossible not to consider the importance of the fullback positions. Manchester City's defensive renewal is already underway, and judging by everything, will be profound. The imminent departure of Kyle Walker, one of the dressing room leaders, represents more than the loss of an experienced player. It also marks the end of an era defined by defensive solidity and lethal transitions down the right flank. The ideal replacement, in the coaching staff's view, is Tino Livramento. At only 22, the Newcastle player has already established himself as a starter and draws attention for his ability to mark firmly and support the attack intelligently. The problem is that convincing the Magpies will not be easy. Qualified for the Champions League, they want to maintain their core and promise to complicate any negotiation involving Livramento. Still, City is not relying on just one plan. Should Newcastle insist on keeping the full back, talks are open with the representatives of Wesley from Flamengo. The young Brazilian has been gaining space and attention due to his offensive aggression and personality on the field. He is seen as a future prospect but could surprise if integrated into the main squad this season. The club believes that, with the right environment and Guardiola's guidance, Wesley could become an elite player. On the left flank, the situation is somewhat more advanced. Ayat Nouri, currently at Wolverhampton, is said to have given the go-ahead to join Pep's project. Talks are progressing positively, and the expectation is that he will be officially announced before the start of pre-season. Quick, technical, and with a good sense of cover, the Algerian fits the modern fullback profile that Guardiola values so highly. With these pieces, City's defense would undergo a significant transformation. The idea is not just to swap players, but to redefine the way the team builds up play from the back line. Pep wants to construct from the back with more versatility, speed, and width in transitions. This movement aims not only to fix last year's shortcomings, but also to anticipate upcoming challenges, especially with the technical and physical growth of opponents such as Arsenal, Liverpool, and even Aston Villa. While all this is happening, another subplot unfolds behind the scenes. Eberechi Eze, Crystal Palace's absolute standout, is at the center of a quiet yet intense battle. With a $60 million release clause, his name circulates in both North and South London, and now also in Manchester. City is closely watching every move of Tottenham, who currently lead the talks. But Guardiola's stance is clear. If a real opportunity arises, the club will not hesitate. For the manager, Eze represents more than impressive stats or crucial goals. He is a piece that can change the tempo of a game, break defenses with an unexpected dribble, or create space where there seems to be none. In Guardiola's system, that is gold. Not by chance, Haaland himself has already expressed his appreciation for Eze's style of play. In recent statements before the FA Cup final, the Norwegian striker called him a fantastic player. And ironically, it was Eze who scored the goal that gave Palace the title precisely against Manchester City. Sometimes matches write their own stories. If City really decide to enter the race, there could be a turnaround. After all, when the club chooses to invest, it rarely walks away empty-handed. The question is time and opportunity. Spurs know that if they take too long, they could see their target head to Manchester, as has happened with other names in the past. Finally, there is an even more complex layer to this puzzle, the possible English exodus from the squad. With Grealish's departure almost certain, and Walker already seeking new challenges, other local names such as Stones and Calvin Phillips are also evaluating their futures. The loss of British identity is a quiet concern at the Etihad, especially given the Premier League's requirements regarding the number of homegrown players in squads. Therefore, names like Gibbs-White, Cherki, and Eze become even more strategic, not just for their quality, but for the possibility of reinforcing this core with new protagonists. Guardiola does not want just talented players. He wants players who understand the weight of wearing the City shirt, who step onto the pitch with the same hunger the veterans had at their peak, who see every game as a chance to make history. All of this, of course, are still loose pieces on a large board. But what is shaping up is an ambitious reconstruction. Not a fresh start from scratch, but a new chapter, with old pillars being replaced by promises that carry the potential to become legends. If the trophy-less season caused frustration, it also sparked something positive, a sense of urgency. Pep Guardiola does not just want to win again. He wants to build a team that dominates, innovates, and leaves an even deeper mark on European football. And judging by the current activity behind the scenes, Manchester City will spare no effort to make that happen. The 2024-2025 season ended without the titles that Manchester City had been accumulating in recent years, and this pause in their cycle of triumphs seems to have awakened something fundamental within the club, the need to reinvent the team. It is more than just swapping players. It is a profound adjustment in the philosophy that Guardiola has employed since his arrival. Rumors about the departures of Kevin De Bruyne and Jack Grealish confirm that the club is willing to sacrifice stars who marked an era in the name of a renewal that will inevitably bring challenges and expectations. After all, replacing talents of the caliber of these players is no simple task. This is where City's strategy for midfield and attack comes into play, which is already beginning to take shape with names like Ryan Cherki and Ebereki Eze being closely monitored. The arrival of these young talents represents a double bet. Besides their technical quality, they bring youth, energy, and a hunger to conquer that, at times, can even surpass experience. Tactically, Guardiola needs to find a balance between maintaining the attacking style, possession-based and high-pressing, and integrating these new pieces who, although brilliant, are still maturing. Cherki, for example, is a player who stands out for his creativity and agility, but his adaptation to the intensity of the Premier League will be crucial for the team's success. Meanwhile, Eze, with his goal-scoring instinct and ability to make decisions in decisive moments, could be the key to unlocking opposing defenses, something City felt they lacked in crucial matches last season. His versatility allows him to operate both as a central attacking midfielder and out wide, giving Pep more options to vary the system without losing the team's identity. Another fundamental point is the rebuilding of the fullback positions. With the possible signing of Tino Livramento and the almost certain arrival of Ryan Ayet-Nouri, City is trying to ensure a more dynamic defense, capable of supporting the attack without leaving gaps at the back. The speed and tactical awareness of these players are qualities Guardiola deeply values, especially to maintain the constant pressing line that wears down opponents. The departure of Kyle Walker and the speculated exits of Stones and Phillips also suggest that the manager is betting on a renewed defense, perhaps with more mobility and less reliance on players who have already been through long cycles at the club. This reshuffle aims to prepare the team for football that will be even faster and more physical, especially with Premier League rivals becoming increasingly organized and aggressive. On an emotional level for the fans, this process may be painful. Seeing stars like De Bruyne, undisputed idols, leave the club shakes the team's identity and the sense of security that had been cultivated. The exit of Grealish, who, despite some criticism, was always an important piece, also raises questions about the future. But this pain can be transformed into hope, especially with the arrival of young prospects who carry on their CVs the desire to prove themselves and shine on the biggest stage in world football. Cherki, Eze, Livramento, and Ayet-Nouri represent not only an investment for the present, but for the club's future, seeking to ensure that Manchester City not only recovers the top spot, but remains there for many years. The pressure for this transition to be successful is enormous. Guardiola, known for his ability to get the best out of his players and build cohesive teams, needs to accelerate the integration process. Timing is crucial since the Premier League waits for no one, and rivals such as Arsenal, Liverpool, and Newcastle have already been strengthening. In the transfer market, City also remains cautious. The attempt to sign Morgan Gibbs-White, for example, shows the club is willing to invest heavily but without losing a sense of value. Nottingham Forest asking around $100 million could complicate the negotiation, forcing the club to keep other options alive. If Gibbs White does not arrive, the ace up the sleeve might be to convince Eze to don the sky blue shirt, securing a midfield full of creativity and explosiveness. The price of $60 million, although high, is considered fair given the player's quality and potential. Up front, Haaland's legacy remains solid, but he too could benefit greatly from these midfield newcomers, with more creative passes and more frequent goal-scoring opportunities. The arrival of the youngsters promises not only to renew the squad, but also to broaden the range of attacking strategies. Another element to observe is the influence of lifestyle and family environment on the players. De Bruyne's move to Naples, encouraged by his wife to live in that city, shows that off-field decisions also carry weight and can open space for changes that no one initially expected. This could influence other departures, such as Grealish's, who might also be tempted by the chance to play alongside a friend like KDB in Italy. By the end of this transfer window, the expectation is that Manchester City will present a younger, more versatile squad, ready to reclaim their place at the top. If this happens, Guardiola's bets will have been spot on, demonstrating once again his leadership ability and strategic vision in modern football. And you, City fan, how do you see this new phase? Are you backing the youngsters or missing the veterans? Would you like me to continue with more details on possible formations, the rivals scenario, and projections for the season? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the latest Manchester City news and want to keep following everything about your favorite team, don't forget to leave a like. It really helps the channel grow. And, of course, subscribe right now so you don't miss any news, analysis, or fresh updates from the citizens' world. Let's go together on this journey towards another glorious season.